With temperatures in the triple digits, we're not the only ones overheating. Our plants also need to take in extra liquids during the hot summer months. Our 5-minute gardener, Debbie Mounce, explains.
All right, here we are. It's going to be 100 degrees today. The heat is on. It's June, and it kind of happens in Tucson. But how do we get our plants through the summertime? How do they survive this heat in the summertime? I'm going to give you 2 tips that may help you get your plants through the summertime. The first one is mulching the top of your plants. Now, some of your plants, a lot of your plants, your desert adapted plants may not need that. But some of your things like your newly planted citrus or some of the things that just seem to struggle for water in the summertime, and you'll know what those are in your own garden, can absolutely use a little bit of mulching on top of the root system, which will help hold moisture in that root system for a longer period of time. So I'm going to show you how to do that on this crepe myrtle tree that I have here. Now my goal is to put enough mulch. We want about 3 inches of mulch on top of this root system to kind of hold the moisture inside where it needs to be for these roots to survive this heat in the summertime. It also helps with your watering. You may not need to water quite as often if you get enough mulch on the roots, on the top of the roots. Now, the one thing I want to say that you got to be careful of when you're doing this kind of thing is, okay, I've got the mulch on here now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of distribute it evenly around the root system, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to pull it away from the base of the tree, because you don't want the mulch coming up along the trunk of the tree. That mulch along the trunk can actually trap moisture in the trunk and could damage the tree or potentially kill the tree if you get too much moisture. But this is just going to keep the roots nice and cool and damp. Okay, you guys, I'm going to give you another tip on another thing that you can do, which is shade cloth. Now, there are various types of shade cloth that you can get. This one, you can buy it in packages. This is what they call 50% shade cloth. And what this does is this cuts 50% of the UV rays on your plants. Now, this is just a little strip that I cut so that I can show you. But you can actually, you can drape it over a plant on one that needs it, some of your younger newly planted things. You can, I've seen people build frames and actually drape the shade cloth over the frame and then drop that over the top of the plant. You can put stakes in the pot and drape the shade cloth over the stakes, but it really helps. It helps tremendously in your gardening, especially with your vegetable gardening. This can mean the difference between getting vegetables and not getting vegetables in the summertime. All right, you guys, come and see us if you have any questions about how to help get us and your plants through the summertime. Thanks a bunch.
And Debbie's here to talk about some other ways to give our plants a little TLC in the summer. And I want to talk about 2 things that we saw in that video. Number 1, the shade cloth, which is great. I didn't even know that existed.
Yes.
Is it very expensive?
You know, I honestly don't know that. We don't sell it.
Okay.
But I've heard people can buy it at packages in some of the big box stores, Home Depot and Lowe's,
okay.
places like that. So
I would think it'd be relatively inexpensive.
I think it is, and really, especially if you're a vegetable gardener, or if you have young fruit trees, some young citrus or things like that, it really helps get them through the summertime. The other thing is to try to put things in pots and locate it with afternoon shade, because that afternoon heat is what really cooks the plants.
Okay.
And you get sunburning on the plants, and of course they dry out and stuff too. And the other thing I wanted to talk about today a little bit is the mulch.
Yeah, the
that I was
different
talking
kinds
about.
of
Yes. And some people will come in and they ask us for bark chips.
Okay.
And you can buy bags of bark chips, and the bark chips come in different sizes. The only disadvantage, there's a couple disadvantages to bark chips. Bark chips, as they break down, actually pull nitrogen out of the soil, so it can actually deplete the nitrogen that the plant needs. The other thing is bark chips can often hide bugs a little better than just a finer mulch like I used in this segment. That's mulch that is already decomposed to a certain degree, so it's not going to pull nitrogen. I want to quickly touch on watering too. If your watering is efficient in the summertime, your plants are going to be happier. And what I mean by that is one of the problems we see in the nursery is people will water, like on this plant here, they'll water the root ball, but they only water like down to here at the root ball, so the plant is barely surviving. If your water is efficient and you get the water from the top to the bottom of the root ball, you may be able to do it less frequently, and the plant will be happier and it'll grow. So be careful. If you're hand watering particularly, you have a tendency to only water this much of the root ball. Or your irrigation system, if the plant has grown and you still only have one emitter, add another emitter to that plant as it grows.
Now, real quickly, how do we know if our plants are getting a sunburn? You know, just like people, they can get too much sun.
Well, on this kind of plant, it's a little harder to tell, but on things like on citrus, on the leaves on citrus are big and round, and you can look on the, like, let's pretend this is the leaf. In the middle vein of the leaf, on either side, you'll find kind of a burnished area, and then what'll happen is that'll get worse and worse, and it kind of starts to dry out and get like a paper thin dryness there. It's not on the edges so much as it is along the center of the leaf, on the high spots of the leaf, and that's it. Often you'll find it on the west and the south side of plants.
Right, so now we know what to look for. Great information. Thanks so much,
You're
Debbie.
very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.